And so Father began to resist, began to try to hold on within the official structure to the tradition and doctrine of the Church. All he was doing was simply upholding even what the Holy Father himself was teaching. So, for example, when Pope Paul VI issued Humanae Vitae, saying that artificial birth control was intrinsically evil, that no Catholic could do this, Father Height continued to preach this truth in his parish. And instead he was persecuted. He was persecuted by others in the diocese who were resisting the teaching of the Church and the teaching of the Pope. And we're telling Catholics, no, just follow your conscience. Now, yes, we are obliged to follow our conscience, but it has to be an informed conscience. It cannot be an erroneous conscience. And the faithful were being misled by the clergy that seemed to imply that there was a way around the teaching of the Church, that they could avoid the burden of having a large family by using contraceptives. So Father Height courageously preached the truth of the Church, encouraging large families, forbidding the usage of these sinful means. And he was persecuted and he was punished for this. And then when the Holy Father, Pope John Paul II, issued permission, not that it was in fact needed, but he did issue a document saying that priests could say the traditional Latin Mass. Of course, the traditional Latin Mass had never been suppressed. This has been confirmed by the cardinals. But especially in this country, the hierarchy were implying that it had been abrogated, that it had been abolished. Not just in this country, but throughout the world. So there was this dissonance between the Church and the Pope on the one hand and the bishops on the other. The Pope was saying that the traditional Mass could be said, and so Father Height began to say it. And then his superior told him that he had to stop this and that he had to go and get reprogramming, if you will. And Father Height declined this recommendation. And then it was after his many years as pastor of Sacred Heart in Jervis, where Catholics from all over Oregon were flocking to his masses to hear the authentic Catholic doctrine. But then his superior left him without an assignment, as was the case with so many good priests. The priests that were upholding the teaching of the Church, that were attempting to minister to the flock of our Lord, they were either sent out to the boondocks, or they were left without an assignment, without anything to do. Now, like many other priests, Father Eugene Height, he could have done nothing. He could have retired to the golf course. He could have spent his time fishing. But he heard the pleas of Catholics in Oregon who said, "Give us a bread, don't give us a rock. Give us fish and not a serpent." So he heeded this appeal of the faithful. And so he began to say Mass in his home in the hills outside of Silverton. And once again, there the faithful began to flock to him. Quickly, 200 people were coming to his home. And so he built a chapel then in which to provide the traditional Mass and sacraments and doctrine to the faithful who sought it, as the Holy Father confirmed in his 1988 motu proprio, that the traditional Mass was to be made widely available to those Catholics that wished for it. So Father Hyde obeyed the Pope even as the bishops in this country and in so many places were disobeying the Pope and disobeying the Church. Right, Father Hyde has been accused of disobedience, but it is he who was obeying the Church, who was obeying God, rather than men. As the apostles told the religious superiors of their time, the leaders in the temple, we must obey God rather than man. We cannot keep silent. And so Father Hyde did not keep silent. And he began then to work with the Society of St. Pius X, which Archbishop Lefebvre similarly, although the Archbishop, thanks be to God, from the very beginning, of course, he was present at the council. Indeed, Archbishop Lefebvre had worked on the preparatory documents for the Second Vatican Council. He knew exactly what was going on. And he saw how the radicals had taken control of the council. And so Archbishop Lefebvre then resisted, as St. Paul resisted St. Peter himself, as we read in the book of Acts, because he was to be blamed. Right? The Holy Father is infallible under certain strict conditions. When he teaches from his chair, from the throne, ex cathedra, as the head of the whole church. But when he only states his own opinion, then that infallibility is not necessarily guaranteed.